When you tap into your energy, you are getting in touch with an unlimited power supply to create whatever life you want to live.
You're listening to the Science and Spirit of Happy podcast, where we discuss the rational, strategic, and psychological methods, but also the deep reasons and spiritual philosophy behind being happy down to the soul. Happiness isn't just hedonism. It's not even solely personal. Getting happy dramatically increases your effectiveness in every area, from business and finance to relationships. When we align with our own personal version of ideal, we end up not just happier, but healthier, more whole, more successful and richer, but even loving and loved. It's my opinion that getting happy for yourself is the absolute best way to serve the people in your life. I'm your host, Laura Lee Bowers, master healer and academic researcher, and this is another episode diving into
the science and spirit of happy.
A logical path to soul.
G'day, y'all. Welcome back. Ooh, we have a juicy one today, folks. We're talking about the realm of energy, or spirit, or soul, or life force, ki, whatever you want to call it. We are talking about what's behind matter. We know that matter is actually vibrating particles, which is mind-bending to even think about. But it's true. Energy is behind everything. And the last thing I want to do is get to one side or the other on you, because I think there's enough of that. There's enough of content and information and people online talking about, something far to the spirit side or something far to the science side. And energy is definitely one of those things. I mentioned before how quantum physics gets brought up in so many conversations that are otherwise completely not scientific, and not that any conversation needs to be scientific, but quantum physics is often lumped into a lot of discussions about, things that can't be really pinned down. And that's not really my intention. I don't really want to get into conversations that don't result in anything. I also don't want to, get into conversations that are too pared down, that are not open to new discovery. But the energetic realm is so I don't know. I feel like I overused the word important in my last episode, talking about how important the emotion system was in HeartSet. But the energetic realm is really, we're talking about like inspiration and purpose. Like soul is just this power source of potential and unlimited capacity for creation, right? This is our creative center. This is where creativity comes from. This is where we create physical things, right? Getting back to that matter, in physics being vibrating energy that turns solid at the level of observation that we are sitting at. It's pretty magical. And so I really want to dive into what I call SoulSet. If you have been listening, and I would definitely encourage anybody who's listening to this podcast to listen to the entire first season. If not, definitely listen to the episodes on the sets. So mindset, heart set, when I'm talking about emotional intelligence. Bringing you to this one, the soul set. So just like mindset and heart set, soul set is a filter by which you understand things. The filter by which you understand the energy in your life. And this one is less important to dissect in the ways that we were talking about the dents and the divots, the damages that can happen to these minds, these filters, the damages that can happen to your mindset and your heart set are very different than the damages that can happen to soul or your intuition. So basically, energy can't be damaged, I guess. So your mindset and your heart set, you can feel and think in ways that are totally unproductive. But for your soul set, you can't really harm it per se. But what you can do is misinterpret it and misdirect it. So that's it. You know, the dents and the divots are less something that we need to pay attention to versus just getting straight. Getting aligned is more what we need to focus on in the soul set. The reason for this is, as I was explaining, you can't really damage energy. You can't really damage your soul set. It's kind of pure. And, it's where what people call your highest self, like your highest potential, the best version of you, that pure kind of beingness, divinity, your contact with divinity. That's where this sits. So there's no damage to your soul. Yeah, I mean, your soul is perfect. Your energy is perfect. It could be completely misdirected and misguided, and you could be misinterpreting it a ton, and that will lead to all kinds of problems. But nonetheless, it is pure. There's nothing wrong with your energy. So getting clarity about that is more important than anything, and that has to do with healing other aspects of yourself. So we're not really in the soul set aiming to heal the soul or to heal the energy. Okay, I'll get into bad vibes and good vibes and what that all, means and how those come to be. But for now, it's really important to understand that when we talk about soul set, we're kind of talking about an intermediary. So when we're thinking about soul set, when we're thinking about intuition, when we're thinking about getting in touch with our higher self, what we're really trying to do is to align our conscious minds and our hearts, but more our conscious minds with the intermediary that energy is between the divine, between your purpose, between the unconscious mind, between your body, between, your ancestral inherited knowing, etc. So that we can make the right moves, right? And we can tap into that magic, as a little side point, which isn't really a side point, the way that I understand the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious minds, or I mean, whatever you want to call it. I don't even think the unconscious is the mind very much at all. But the way that I understand them is that the subconscious is the intermediary between the two. So the subconscious is where your intuition is and your emotions, and it acts as an intermediary between your body and your unconscious, giving you feelings and intuitions to follow for your conscious mind to kind of act upon, and your conscious mind to see what's going on. Okay? The personal powers, if you remember from the last episode, the personal powers associated with mindset is clarity and connection. The personal powers associated with your heart set is fierceness and freedom. So the personal powers associated with your soul set, with your energetic center, is comfort and confidence. So I've spoken a little bit about, the experience of somebody being very uncomfortable in their body and then doing things to change their body, but still feeling uncomfortable, still not feeling well. That's because comfort in yourself and confidence in yourself comes from a level of energy. It doesn't come from the level of physical stuff. So the other side to that argument is that physical stuff comes from energy. So you could definitely have your comfort and your confidence be aligned with a different physical reality. A very good example of this is money. Money is energy. So money is a really good example when we're talking about SoulSet, when we're talking about energy. Looking at money, having money doesn't do anything. It doesn't matter at all. I mean, it's not even tied to a gold standard anymore. It's kind of made up. It doesn't mean anything whatsoever. However, having money can definitely facilitate comfort. It can definitely make you feel confident that you are able to, deal with whatever life throws at you. So while we definitely need physical things for our comfort and our confidence, really the root of comfort and confidence is energetic. And energy is pure. Okay, energy is pure. There is no good energy. There is no bad energy. Using money as an example, and money is amoral. There are all kinds of theories out there that, rich people are bad or poor people are bad or money creates bad behaviors, or you have to be immoral to attain money. But all of that, it's completely bogus. Money is entirely amoral. It does not just come from good deeds. It does not just come from bad deeds. It just is. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter if you're a good person or a bad person. Like, money doesn't judge. Money has absolutely no judgment. Money, there's no such thing as, do you deserve money? Do you not deserve money? It just is. It's energy. It's flowing. It is or it isn't. There's no good. There's no bad. Now, emotions are the opposite. Emotions are totally opposite because they're inherently good or bad across the board. I mean, obviously there's going to be, some weirdo somewhere that likes bad feelings, but I mean, actually I might use an example of people who like, feelings that everyone else would attribute as bad. But universally, generally speaking, we as humans either feel good about a specific emotion or bad. So they're inherently good or bad. Even complex emotions like grief, if you have ever experienced grief or you have looked at, people expressing how they've experienced grief, you will often hear that it is a very complicated emotion that isn't just bad. Now, this is because of a lot of conflicting emotions being kind of like riled up in there. You have emotions of loss, of missing someone or something, but also the lack of that person or situation kind of illuminates how much you loved it and how beautiful it was and brings up all these memories, etc. It also kind of creates space for a lot of sorrow, etc. to release. So there are a lot of good emotions that come with, you know, the worst emotion that you can experience. So these are not neutral. Okay, it's not that like, oh, grief is neither bad nor good. No, grief is both. But bad vibes are not actually bad vibes. So bad vibes are a bad feeling you get when you feel those vibes. So if you walk in somewhere or you like you meet a person, you're like, bad vibes. Like, no, not for me. That is actually messages from other sets. That's messages from your emotions. That's messages from your mind saying, For example, you know, a heavy metal concert is going to feel great to some people. And it's going to feel absolutely crazy to others. Like, how could you possibly enjoy this? Music in nature. This is one of my pet peeves. Like, I just can't understand why anybody would bring a boombox to like the beach in Canada when there's like barely anybody there and it's this beautiful, you know, pristine nature. Why you got your jams like jamming? Like you can listen to your jams literally like everywhere else in our world, at your house, in your car, at your work, wherever, like at the cafe, whatever. Like, we're here in nature. Why would you bring your jams? I was at like a day hike, one of the top 10 most beautiful day hikes in New Zealand, and there were like packs of people with like having a little boombox while they're hiking in the middle of like, you know, Lord of the Rings, gorgeous, like, territoire. I can't understand it. Obviously, somebody is really getting down to that, right? Like, somebody's really, really enjoying this. Like, wow, why wouldn't I have my jams? I'm here in this beautiful place. The only thing that could make it better is, like, my playlist. So, it's not inherently good or bad. It just kind of is, and it either aligns with you or not. You know, people like different kinds of intimacy, sex, you know, and like sex is energetic. It's literally like creation of human beings. And this isn't linked to any like good or bad traits either. If you kind of, I don't know, think that maybe somebody who loves a metal concert is like, maybe they have scary vibes and maybe they're like scary person and that's why they like this like crazy scary music. But in my experience, metalheads are like some of the softest, like kindest people ever. It's really, really funny. I actually know a person who is a metalhead who is into BDSM, and maybe this is totally TMI, but we should all be adults here. He is like the kindest, most reliable person. Like, and I mean, I've known him for years and years and years. He is like a lovely human being. I'm just bringing this up to illustrate that, like, there's no good vibes or bad vibes. There's just vibes, and it's all subjective. So emotions are the radar for what's good or bad for me, right? How do I know that, you know, having my jams playing when I'm hiking, through the beautiful forest or mountain range, or hanging at the lovely pristine beach is not for me? Well, it makes me feel of some kind of way, right? It makes me feel bad. And if you are in touch with your spirit, you can actually tell a good vibe from a bad vibe in just the way that it aligns with you. This realm is actually the one that I'm strongest in. I touched on briefly how we have propensities to be stronger or have more of our energy or have more of our consciousness kind of indebted or indentured into one of the sets. I use the example of, the dumb jock who has their consciousness very fixated in the body, or, the puny nerd who has, their consciousness and their energy sort of wrapped up in their mind primarily. Although these are, total stereotypes that have no bearing on an individual, it just sort of illustrates that people can have very, very different strengths and be just as brilliant in very different ways. This also means when we have a strength in a certain area that we actually need to work on it more as well. So this isn't just, oh, I am so in touch with energy and therefore like I catch a vibe faster than the other guy. No. Just like the athlete needs to work out more, needs to practice more than, somebody else in order to be successful or in order to excel in their strengths. The same goes for the nerd. The nerd needs to continue to focus on, their mental achievements or their mental accumulations of knowledge or skills, etc., in order to continue down the path of their purpose, more so than, the athlete or whoever else. So for me, although this is my strength, it's also the area that I need to focus on the most. When you do focus, when you can bring a lot of attention to spirit, to the spirit realm, to energy, you really can tell a good vibe from a bad vibe. And when you trust in that, when you really trust, when you can really get in touch, in tune with energy, just in general, with your energy, your soul, with divine energy, the way that we're all connected, with other people's energy, other places' energy, you really can create anything. And I say anything, but I did mention before we talked about a little bit the sort of the manifestation, law of attraction, genre, I'm gonna call it. I don't know what to call that. That belief system, I guess. And I say anything, but I don't believe that you can create anything. I don't believe that I could go out and create, a reality where I'm doing something that's not aligned with me. Like I can't even imagine. I can't imagine something that is completely not aligned with me whatsoever, because like I kind of shouldn't even be able to almost. It's completely outside of what I need to worry about. Like literally, it's like literally of zero concern to me whatsoever. But anything that you desire, anything that you truly desire genuinely is definitely going to be aligned with your purpose, and you can absolutely create that for sure. Anything that is within that. So what do you do if you're not aligned with your spirit super a lot, Or you don't want to spend all of this energy constantly trying to dissect whether, the vibe is okay with you or not okay with you, or something is like good or bad or whatever. The answer is boundaries. So you draw boundaries around what you believe. And what you believe and what you value really lies in this center. It lies in the soul set. So, like, base intuitive IQ would be the ability to understand what's okay and what's not okay with you. And I have hard, fast rules about what's okay and not okay with me. When I met my husband, actually, he was this total, like, people pleasing. He was in this people pleasing kind of vibe. And he was talking about somebody who was being, like, super problematic, like racist and like sexist and just like, fascist, like, pretty much. And he was saying to me, well, if you like kind of like consider things from his perspective. And I was like, I don't care what his perspective is. And he just looked at me like, you can do that? I was like, yeah, I draw the line of human rights. It changed his life. It literally changed his life. He had been told his whole life that he needs to consider everybody's perspectives and he needs to, whatever it is. I don't even need to think about it because it's not something that I think about. I draw my line at human rights. Like, I don't care what somebody's perspective is when they're talking about not human rights. Like, sorry, this is outside of the realm of what's okay with me. And I don't even need to think about it. Things like people shouldn't harm other people, period. That's just, like, I draw the line. I don't really care what the justification is or whatever. I don't even need to consider it. Like, just shorten that processing time right down to like nothing. Like, nope, sorry, that's not okay with me. And the way that you do that is through watching your emotional reactions and then making a mental evaluation. So you can see how all of the sets, all of these filters, all of these IQs, they kind of wrap up together into reality IQ. I just talk about the mindset as being reality IQ, where reality IQ is measured and developed. But reality IQ is actually a mix of all of them. It's just not really helpful to talk about, the mental sphere in any other terms, because that's where we're trying to develop reality IQ anyhow. So getting to base reality on the mental sphere and the emotional sphere will allow you to make evaluations and to make, firm boundaries about what is okay with you and what's not okay with you. This will equate you being aligned with your purpose. If you're watching the energy that, is in you, is going through you, is being filtered in through other things in your environment or people, etc. And you will be aligned with your purpose in a way that the things that you desire, your greatest fulfillment, it just kind of happens naturally. It's that sort of charmed life, that person who just kind of, everything just kind of works out for them. That's alignment. That's alignment, especially at the SoulSet level. The foundation of this, as I illustrated in the Unstuck episodes, and I brought up again and again and again, because it really is the foundation, is that radical self-trust and that radical self-responsibility. Because when we're talking about the mind and we're talking about the body, a lot of things in the physical realm we can get objective about. But when we're talking about the heart especially, and the spirit, things get very, very subjective. And when we're talking about, your purpose and the way that you feel, this is entirely up to you to decide. So you're the only person that really can take responsibility for this, because you're the only person who can see it. You're the only person who can feel it. You're the only person who can decide, whether it's right or whether it's wrong for you. So, what does radical self-trust and radical self-responsibility have to do with SoulSet, have to do with your energetic frequency? Well, for myself, I can say that recently it has become clear to me that, feeling guilt or shame, especially over past behaviors that weren't aligned with the future that I want to go into, or weren't aligned with, my purpose and with who I am as a person. Because remember, your values lie within the soul set, right? That like highest self lies within the soul set. Alignment is super, super important in the soul set. In fact, it's the only way that you can go wrong. Harm to the soul set ends up in misalignment. So once we get into misalignment and we do things that aren't aligned with our values, because how else are we supposed to behave when we are out of alignment with our values? Of course, we behave in ways that are not aligned with our values. And when I remember these things, I recall these things, I'm trying to move forward in a way that is aligned. And I recall these things. It shoots my energy out of alignment. And all of a sudden, I am off somewhere else, not in any way energetically empowered to create the things that I need to create. So, one night in the bathtub, something came to mind where I had acted out of alignment with my values. And this thing came up, and my self-talk tool, I touched on this a little bit in the last episode, and I've mentioned the self-talk tool a couple times, but my self-talk tool piped up and essentially didn't say in words, but insinuated like, hey, you don't deserve, this thing or that thing. And that is self-worth that lies in the realm of heart set more than anything. But these things, these sets, they all work together. And all of a sudden my energy is completely aligned with, a life where I'm out of alignment. It's aligned with behaving in the way that isn't aligned with my values. So, taking radical self-responsibility and practicing radical self-trust, I turned around and just said to myself, yes, so what? You acted out of integrity. Yeah, you were out of integrity there. So what? Yes, I'm sorry. That sucks. I was out of alignment. I didn't act with integrity. My bad. Moving on. Moving on, because who we are is so much deeper than what we do. Although I am a firm believer that what we do is who we are, because nobody really cares who we are deep down inside. They care what we do. And so, acting out of integrity, acting without integrity, that it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable in my life for me to do. It's not acceptable, in anyone's life for them to do, in my world anyways, and I think in anybody's world pretty much. However, we're inherently worthy. So this is a capital T truth. We are inherently worthy. I am practicing self-acceptance, comfort in myself, which includes being able to make mistakes and learn from them and move forward. Having the confidence in myself that, one bad move or 10 bad moves or 100 bad moves or a million bad moves don't make me a bad person. What makes me a bad person is doing nothing about it. Trusting myself puts me in touch with my values. Taking responsibility for myself allows me to face the times that I have acted out of alignment with my values and accept that that is who I was, that is where I was, and that doesn't have anything to do with who I am today. And that is how your past stops directing your future. Because the minute I say to, my memory, to this program part of me, my self-talk tool bringing up like, hey, do you remember that time you were a B? Yeah, you didn't do the right thing. When that pops up and I can reel my energy back in and say, yep, I know. And that wasn't okay, but it doesn't matter anymore because it isn't who I am now. And that's the way that it is. I can reel my energy and realign it, not only with my values so that I can walk in integrity in a way that isn't coming from shame, is coming from a productive place. Remember, we talked about productive versus positive mindset. It isn't positive to say, I effed up. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's not positive. It certainly is productive. I can realign my energy to create the life that I want, aligned with the person who I want to be. So if you weren't born into a perfect family, you weren't reared perfectly, even if you were born into, somebody's perfect family, maybe it wasn't a perfect fit for you, you weren't reared perfectly. You can always gather your energetic integrity back. You can gather your energy and direct it towards your purpose, towards what is aligned with who you really are and who you really want to be and your divine truths, so that you can create the lived reality, the physical stuff, right? The environment, the relationships, all of that stuff. It's absolutely necessary for your energy to be behind that. Otherwise, it'll just be working against you constantly, which is a pain to deal with. Let me tell you, I have a husband who has had his energy absolutely kicking his own butt. His energy would just loop back around. He'd do stuff, it would just loop back around, kick him in the butt. And I have been sharing my energy with this person for 6 years now. Every day, we spend every day, all day long together. We have had very few moments in our life, like very few time periods in our life where we work separately or whatever. So we spend all of our time together. I have been dealing with this kick yourself in the butt energy for years, and it is not fun. It is so frustrating. It is so much easier to have energy that is just like flowing towards the thing that you want, and everything's like working out, and you like have a little bump in the road and you're like, oh, just flow over that. Okay, yeah, we'll deal with that. So much easier. So get your energetic integrity in line. Speaking of energetic integrity, I feel like a very misunderstood part of the soul and the spiritual journey is dun, da, 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 the ego. So in my work, I don't even call it the ego. I call it the ego tool, which is kind of cool because it gives it the acronym ET. So it's like this like alien, but it's also reframes it because the ego has been so demonized, and there's like, it's like the opposite of demonic. It's totally benign. It's benign. And there is this philosopher, researcher, whatever, named Hannah Arendt, who studied the atrocities that happened in the Holocaust, and she actually put forward this theory that was called the banality of evil. saying that like she had studied these people and expected them to be evil, and then what she found was they were actually just benign people following orders. So I'm just thinking that it's kind of funny because it fits really well with the ego. So maybe, maybe the ego can be super evil, but it's not evil because it is diabolical. It's evil because it doesn't know right from wrong. It doesn't have that capacity whatsoever. It's not supposed to be used for that whatsoever. So people demonizing the ego, I mean, just like if we're looking at the people who committed those atrocities in Arendt's work, it's really the people making the commands that like have the diabolical kind of intentions or the diabolical direction, right? Like the people who are just like pushing buttons or whatever, that it's completely benign. And the ego tool really is that. So it's just this tool, and it's just doing stuff, and that it's programmed to do, right? It's just, I mean, I like to use the analogy or the metaphor of a calculator. The ego tool is like a calculator, okay? And it's just programmed with past sums. So, at some point in your life, 1 + 1 = 5. Or, this is how you grew up or whatever. Then this is just, it's just gonna, you punch in 1 + 1, it's gonna pump out 5, right? That's the way that it is. And when we pit ourselves against this tool that is actually largely productive, okay, so this is the thing, it's largely protective. So that's its main function is either to be protective or to summarize complex situations that we can't really process. So if we tell ourselves that this is a bad thing, that our egos are a bad thing, well, first off, you're never going to get rid of it because it's not a bad thing. It's beneficial. It's supposed to be there. And secondly, you're setting up your energy to be antagonistic with yourself. So this is a recipe for inner war, not inner peace. Bad programming makes a bad ego. So to lessen this, like it's definitely probably it's more desirable for me, and it probably could be more desirable for many people, depending on what vocation or what purpose they have, to lessen the ego's influence over their lives. Especially, I mean, geez, the ego having influence, it like hardly has a brain. It's a little dangerous, but like lessening the ego's influence requires lessening the ego's job. So what you need to do is to have a more protective environment. It's an outside thing. I was talking about the boundaries and like how, even enlightened people, you think like Thich Nhat Hanh was just a sitting duck for like some haters to come and rock up and like mess up his like inner world. Absolutely not, right? He had boundaries because they're absolutely necessary. And that way you can let the protective faculty of the ego kind of drop a bit. But you still need it to summarize too much information. Like you meet somebody new and you're just going to make a summary and make an assumption about them. You don't have to stick to it. You don't have to be a D about it. You can change your mind. You can be open-minded when the time is right. You don't need to be open-minded with every person that you meet. Like that's not a very good use of your time. That's not productive at all. There's so much information out there. When we're talking about these things, talking about energy, talking about the fact that everything that is solid is actually, like, I don't even know, millions, billions, infinite particles vibrating, at the speed that is beyond, powerful microscopes to view. I mean, the amount of information in this world that there is, you need an ego to summarize it. You need to walk in and be like, oh yeah, well, this or that, or yeah, I think I'd like to get to know that person. I think I wouldn't like to get to know that person. Ooh, pretty sure I saw a red flag there. I mean, these are the things that your ego does. Like, oh, you should probably brush your hair. It's necessary. I go into all kinds of ways that you can reprogram the ego tool, because it can become very problematic if it's been programmed with some dangerous sums. If it has been programmed in an environment that's antagonistic, it can act antagonistic to its environment or in defensive ways. I mentioned a few different, or one or two different scenarios that are protective, defensiveness, like being judgmental, which feels horrible. Being a judgmental person or being critical, it feels absolutely atrocious. I have also experienced that when we get unhappy, we get defensive, we can get judgmental, and it's terrible. And that is really that comes from the ego trying to protect you. And you could totally reprogram this. It's not that hard. But the first step is to stop demonizing it and just get that sense of integrity, that sense of things within you being okay, that acceptance for what is, whatever it is. If you have a super overactive ego, like, it is what it is. Or you're like me, you acted in a way that didn't align with your values, like, so what? It is what it is. Like, accept it, learn from it, move on, don't do it again. Reprogram that ET. Because you can't control energy. You don't control energy. It's pure, it's precise. The shadiest vibes, the nastiest vibes that I've ever come across, and I am super, I think anyways, sensitive to vibes. Who knows how not sensitive I am? Somebody else could be so much more sensitive than me, and I have no idea. But the shadiest vibes I've ever felt are people who are trying to control their vibes. Okay? I'm like getting sickitated just thinking about it. But like, the controlled and oppressed and diverted, like, sexual energy is like the grossest to me to feel. Oh man, makes me want to wild out and just do weird stuff to get away. The way to handle energy is you either let it in, you block it by like physical, environmental kind of blocks. It would be phenomenal if anybody could teach me how to have like energetic blocks to people or situations that don't feel good, because I think once you're in the field of something or someone who doesn't feel good, it is what it is. It's there. You can't, but you can block it environmentally. You can get away from it. You can kind of protect yourself from it, or you can redirect it, right? Redirecting is that example that I'm telling you when, shame pops up and it shoots your energy out the side door, so you're no longer aligned with your virtues. You can realign them by redirecting via, acceptance and productivity, getting productive, thinking productively. You choose. At the end of the day, you choose with your mind, your heart, and your spirit what is right for you, what is wrong for you. We're going to talk about making physical adjustments in the next episode. For now, it's really important to understand that your nervous system lies in the field of energy. So I've heard so much talk about the nervous system. This makes me very, very happy. Every time somebody's like, yeah, so this is how I'm regulating my nervous system. I'm like, great. This is an exciting time to be alive. Because your nervous system, it controls your fight or flight response. I'm not going to get too much into it. Like I said, I'm doing courseware for every single one of these episodes, and I thoroughly encourage you to at least pick up the free stuff. If not, like definitely go through all of it because I'll be talking at length about this stuff. But your nervous system controls your fight or flight responses. It affects and controls your hormones, which are so impactful. I had no idea until I went through pregnancy and postpartum and breastfeeding and all of that. I'm still breastfeeding, but hormones are crazy. I mean, we know all kinds of things that your hormones can do. I'm sure that you know lots of things. But the freakiest thing that I experienced my hormones doing was making me feel confident in my body or not. I don't even know how this happened, but pretty much immediately when I got pregnant, I felt so confident and comfortable in my body. And it's not that I really was struggling an extreme amount or anything before that, but it was just like, it was weird. Like I would, I'd lift up my shirt, and if like the bottom of my bra showed or something when I was like readjusting my, belly strap or whatever, I like just wouldn't care. Like I was so, I don't know. I thought it was because I just got really utilitarian about my body. Like my body is, performing a function right now, and I just was less, I don't know, protective about it or something. I don't know. But postpartum, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like at like the 6-month mark postpartum, I got so self-conscious about my body. I found myself hiding in the bathroom to get changed at yoga. This is a yoga studio I've been going to for, since college, since I was in university. And all of a sudden, like I'd been going there postpartum already, and I didn't really have many changes to my body really. Like after pregnancy, my body didn't change. So I was like, what the heck is going on? I just felt so self-conscious, and it was aligned with a shift in my hormones when my cycles return, etc. And I was like, wow, okay, so hormones can make you confident or not confident. Like that's crazy. But is it? Because your nervous system and your hormones align with your energy and your energetic frequency. And I've already explained that confidence and comfort with yourself are aligned with your energy. So it makes perfect sense in this wowza way that I have of understanding how we get to fulfillment. So also like your neurons, your neurological functioning, and the other transmissions of information in your body have a lot to do with your nervous system and how that's communicating your situation to the control room upstairs. The intuitive IQ is the most magical of all the sets. The IIQDs, so the dents and divots, are more like bends. As I was explaining before, it misdirects energy. It doesn't really change it. Or what happens is the mind, heart, and body are have experienced things or have been programmed in ways, or are forced by, our conscious beliefs or our unconscious beliefs to go against it, to go against what would have been energetic integrity, to like misdirect it. So you end up kind of, in denial. Denial can be experienced on a lot of levels, or just going around in circles, as I was explaining about, my husband's energy just kept wrapping right around and kicking him in the butt. So intuitive IQ, base intuitive IQ, is purpose and belonging. So yeah, your sense of purpose and belonging here in the world, like just as a person, that sense of sort of being worthy just as a human being because you're here. That is a part of base intuitive IQ. And your mind, heart, and body will be guided by this. Guided into results, the like physical results, environments, relationships that are aligned with your energetic integrity, with your, who you really are, that pureness. And a high intuitive IQ is a creative force. So this is what, manifesting kind of wants to wants to sum up, wants to understand, explain, wants to have work for you. Because when you are aligned, when you have a high intuitive IQ, you seem to kind of just manifest beneficial and desirable physical things, situations, people, opportunities. It's, your dream life, like your dream job, all the financial freedom that you want. This is achieved just naturally. It really is that melding. Remember in the episode on purpose and inspiration, I was talking about how your purpose is to ground your divine principles, your purity, your spiritual purity into tangible means, like ground it into the earth. That will be your dream life, you living that purpose. That's kind of you being able to blend the left and the right hemisphere, how we were talking about in Inspiration and Purpose, about the two hemispheres in your brain, in connecting, your energy and your heart with your mind and your body, your ability to act and your ability to experience the life that you want. It's totally integral to your energetic integrity, to your purpose. Blending the two, not blending the two, but like following one into the other is the natural direction of your life. I was just reading some research on highly creative people. So these researchers studied highly creative people versus people who were not as creative but had the same skill set, had the same job experience, etc. And what they found was the people that were highly creative had more connections in their resting state between what they call your default mode in your brain and their executive function. So it was essentially, there was more communication between the left and right hemisphere, your automatic ways, your programmed ways, with the ways that you consciously choose. The result was, this alignment was, these people could, create really wonderful things and scenarios, and really be that kind of conscious creator in their lives, more so than other people. To me, this sounds like they probably were in flow. And I have my own way of looking and practicing flow, or something that aligns with flow. Flow aligns with this anyways, with what I deem fulfillment, with my idea of enlightenment. To me, all of these things meet and become the same thing in a state I call root love. And I am going to talk about that next episode, because when you connect your left and right hemispheres, when you are able to use your emotional reactions to direct your energy towards integrity, to align with your mind, and therefore act, this creates the body, creates the environment, and the body and the environment in turn create all of this. And if my partner's analogy of his energy wrapping around and kicking him right back in the butt could be reversed, That's what this would look like. That's what root love looks like. All of your energetic integrity, all of your emotional well-being, all of your mental inner peace, all of your physical vitality and health, they all feed into each other to reinforce one another, creating your dream life. And then your dream life feeds back into the loop. All of that vitality, all of that, etc., all of that high reality IQ feeds right back in to create more of the same. And you become you enter, instead of the infinite like kick in the butt like self-sabotage loop, you enter the opposite, where you're in an infinite spiral upwards towards perfectibility, towards your highest self, towards your potential, towards whatever you want, whatever you dream of, peace, vitality, happiness, fulfillment, enlightenment, whatever you want to call it. We're going to get into that when we talk about body set. We're going to get into root love when we talk about body set. And I can't wait. See you there, y'all.